Hello, welcome to Rusal Reads. I'm Deja, and today we are going to do my best books of 2024. Overall, I will say that 2024 was not the best reading year for me, but it was better than the 2023 year because today I actually have 10 books that I want to talk about, which is such a surprise to me. All of these books are over 4 stars, but not all of them are 5 stars. But the reason I will be putting them on this list is because they either had a lasting impact on me, they were 5 stars, or because they just surprised me by being good. So without further ado, let's get into this video. The first book that I have is The Other Woman by Jerome Dickey, and this one pleasantly surprised me, and this was actually a 5 star read for me. I still feel so much when I'm like thinking about this book. It's just like the roller coaster of emotions that this put me on. Like crazy. The story follows a woman who finds out that her husband has been cheating on her and just the emotional aftermath of that. And I just feel like the storytelling was superb in this one. I really feel like the author really connected like a lot of things that just kind of mirrored each other. Like there was a character that is like her boss, and you just see like the parallels there between the main character and her boss. But another thing that I really just enjoyed about this is just like the friendship with this one. Like her friend really calls her out on something, but she's also very supportive. And I also just really enjoyed just like the hint of a potential romance that was just so heartbreaking just because, oh gosh, like it was just so many emotions in this one. How many page novel is this? Not even 400 pages, and I feel like I went through an entire emotional roller coaster reading this. So this book is obviously 5 stars, and I just cannot wait to get more into Jerome Dickey's work. So definitely one that I would recommend. The next book that I have to talk about is Farsector by NK Jemisin. This one was actually a surprise for me, despite the fact that it is by NK Jemisin, and I just really appreciate and enjoy this author's writing. I didn't know how this new format would impact like my enjoyment of their work, and I think that this one is definitely very standard of what I think of NK Jemisin's work. Definitely interesting world building. I was very fascinated by a lot of just like the little things. Like there's this whole society that's like digital, like it's in the cloud and it's like its own thing. And I thought that was just so fascinating. But even just like the little like mystery, like I found myself really enjoying this one surprisingly. And I do appreciate the questions that come up in a lot of NK Jemisin's world building. The one thing that I really enjoy about NK Jemisin's work is that it's really exploring like a what if society, and I just really like that, and I like the way that this author does it. The next one that I have to talk about is the Forever Desert series by Moses Osei Utomi, and this one, it is 2 books so far. It has The Lives of the Ajungo and it has The Truth of the Aleke. The Lives of the Ajungo I really did enjoy. I don't think I read that in 2024, but The Truth of the Aleke, which is the only reason why it's on this list, is so good. Like I really enjoyed the ending of that. And like with NK Jemisin, I really liked like the what ifs of world building. And with The Truth of the Aleke, I really just liked how the author was playing with like who's right, who's wrong, like who's telling the truth, who's telling lies, like just that whole dynamic in this world. Like I loved it so much. I cannot wait for the third one just to see like where it ends up, because it kind of leaves off in like a darker space, and I was just not prepared, and I am still thinking about that ending, and I really enjoyed it so much. So if you are looking for like an adult fantasy novella that's kind of told like a fable and has like those dynamics that I explained before, and it sounds interesting to you, I would highly recommend it. This next book is kind of like a silent favorite of mine. When I first read it, I didn't love it as much as I feel like I do now, and it has slowly kept being in my mind just as like one of my favorite reads, and I ended up actually getting a special edition of it. So this book is The Fall That Saved Us. Here's the original cover, And then here is the special edition that I got. And I just love this so much. It's so beautiful. When I think about this story, like it is such a heavy emotional read. We're following an angel who has moved away from her toxic family and is healing from that toxicity, but also from like the religious trauma. There's angels, fallen angels, and just the way that the Christian mythology is really in this. Like, gosh, like this was such a heavy but beautiful book. There is a romance in it. It wasn't my favorite romance, and I even hesitate to say that this was even like romantic, but the way that the characters just connect on just a lot of things, because they're both like healing, like they both are from toxic backgrounds in this angel demon world. And I just, gosh, like this book lives in my mind like rent free. So I just had to get this because it is such a beautiful story with like beautiful prose. Like honestly, as a writer, like I am like taking notes on this author's writing because I was just like immediately sucked into the story. Like I cannot like praise this book enough. Like it is just so beautiful, so heart-wrenching. Like it is amazing. Like it's just amazing. So definitely pick this up if you want sapphic angels and emotional like heartbreak. If you want like dealing with religious trauma, like I highly recommend it as well. And then we have a YA book that really surprised me. I did not expect to like this one as much as I did, so that's why it is a surprise for me. And this book is Isle of Blood and Stone. This one I picked up because the author had another book coming out called Dragon Fruit, and I wanted to see just how I would vibe with this author's writing. And when I say that I was surprised, like I was pleasantly surprised. Most YA books these days just have not been hitting like the fantasy, right? Like they really do focus on the romance and not really like the fantasy part. But I feel like this one, it just brought me back to old school YA and like why I did enjoy it when I was a kid, which multiple reasons why that's probably the case. But anyway, even as an adult, I really did enjoy this one. Like you have these teens who are very much being like driven by the adults in their family, but the teens still have like their own like drive and they have their own motivations. And I just really liked how like the adults are just not absent in this one. Like they are actually there. They are not good people and there are good people. I just feel like the way that the adults and the teens like were interacting in this one just felt so realistic. Like they were still teens and they were teens that had like powers. One is a king and then there's like a girl that's she's related to the king. I think that's his like cousin or something, but they all have like their own roles and they're all important. And I thought that it had a great like world building skills. It had me like really invested in like the mystery. I wouldn't say it's like a heavy like mystery, but all in all, like I thought that this was just like a solid read. I just really enjoyed like the politics in this one. I enjoyed the characters. There was like even a little bit of a romance between like a friends to lovers thing, and it was just a solid read. So that's why it's on this list. And then we have my next one, which is also a very surprising read because this is a book that's like less than 100 pages. And this is A Ruin of Shadows. This has got to be like one of my favorite assassin stories like ever. We're following a woman who is the most notable assassin in the world and all of that. But there's a mission that she does not want to carry out. And the story goes on from there. I really like the characters in this one. And I really thought that the world was so interesting. Like, I just wanted more in this world. Like, I was like, the story could keep going. I just want to see what happens with like this kingdom. And I want to be with this character even more. Like, there was just so much there, but it was such a well told story too. I didn't feel like the story had like pacing problems. Like you're immediately like drawn in from like the start, and then it just gets even more and more intriguing. And wow, like this was just an amazing read. I love this novella. If you want black assassins, if you want amazing world building, if you want interesting characters, like pick this up because this one is so underrated. Like I don't hear many people talking about this, and this book released like years ago. So highly recommend it. The next book that we have is Curvy Girl Summer, which was definitely the summer read for me. I really enjoyed the banter of these two characters because they just keep like digging at each other, and I just thought it was so funny and just so cute. And her dates were something else, and I'm glad I never had that experience, but those were interesting things. But I also just really enjoyed seeing the characters together. I liked how it ended, I guess, kinda. And I will say, I think I truly enjoyed the story for the vibes, which I know I absolutely hate that kind of like marketing now, but like it was the summer. There was a curvy black girl on the cover. Like that's all I pretty much wanted, and that's what I got. So yes, this one was a solid read for me as well. And then we have another surprise, which is Missing White Woman. I was very surprised by how pulled in to this mystery thriller I actually was. This one follows a girl who goes to an Airbnb with her boyfriend, and when she wakes up, she finds that there's a dead white woman in like the living room, and it goes off from there. I was surprised for one because the first book by this author, Hollywood Homicide, I DNF'd that because I was just purely bored and I did not like the character. For some reason, I feel like this character is very similar to Hollywood Homicide. They're not really doing well in life. Like, if anything, like they're broke. They don't really have anything going on for themselves. And they just have problems or whatever. And this character is very much the same, but for whatever reason, this story worked for me way better. And I think it was honestly because of the thriller aspects and the social media aspects. It was very interesting to see how social media played a part in this mystery thriller. You have this popular influencer who I want to say is on an app like TikTok or something, and literally, like, this girl is like posting everything under the sun about this investigation to find this missing white woman. And just the way that they were influencing the investigation was so fascinating. And then there's even like this little drama with her and her ex best friend or whatever. There was like that tension in the relationship. And then her boyfriend, who she was staying in an Airbnb, is that like he was missing for a lot of the book, and it just becomes like this whole web of things just to try to find like the truth of what happened to this missing white woman. Who is this dead white woman in this living room that she's staying in? And it was just a wild ride, and I had a great time. Like, I could not put down this book, and I highly recommend it. Like, people have not been talking about this book enough for my liking, because this is probably like one of the best mystery thrillers that I have ever read. The fact that it just kept me like compulsively like reading it, I just, wow. I was really not expecting to like this book as much, especially because, like I said, I DNF the author's other work. But definitely pick this one up if you are interested in mystery thrillers. Like, this one will definitely have you on a wild ride. And then we have Black Sun. Y'all, like, this book just reminded me why I love fantasy so much. I just, gosh, epic fantasy. I have been missing and craving books like this for like the longest. And this book is very hard to describe because I feel like if I say too much, it'll probably spoil like the entire thing. But if I don't say enough, then maybe it won't even intrigue you to pick it up. But I'm gonna try because, yeah, I love this book a lot. Like, this was such a great book. So this book follows three characters. You have a sun priest, you have a crow god, kind of, and then you have kind of like a mermaid siren person. The crow god has a mission to go to this specific place, and he enlists the help of the siren mermaid character to bring him there. And at that place is where the sun priest is. And that is pretty much all I want to say about what happens, because it is, gosh, like, this book, oh my gosh, I cannot even stop smiling about it, because even just like reliving the moments that I'm thinking about in this book, like, I just, gosh, I love this so much. Like, the first chapter starts off with such a bang, like, and it just continues on from there. There were some parts with like one character that I just did not like their perspective. Like they were so slow and so boring, but like the political intrigue is there, like the mythology with like gods and just the fantasy creatures was there. Like I just everything that I wanted was in this book. And I was actually really surprised by how much I liked it because they are traveling majority of this book, and I don't like travel fantasy at all. But this one really did it well in that they broke it up with like flashbacks, and there was just interesting characters. There was even like a little bit of like a romance that was man. Rebecca Roanhorse really like teased me with that romance, and then there was even like some darker like characters that I was just like, I kind of want to know more about you. And I love this one. This one was well worth the hype. The last book that I have to talk about is another book that was well worth the hype, and that is A Dowry, A Blood. Wow, this book. Wow. I was literally up at like 3 o'clock in the morning just thinking about this book because the manipulation of these vampires, the polyamorous relationship, the toxicity, like everything was just wow. I was not expecting this book to impact me the way that it did, but I really enjoyed following these characters. I really enjoyed like the gothic vibes and just like the darker elements of being with this vampire that's so manipulative, that's so toxic. And it's told in an epistolary style. So she's writing a letter to her husband who she has killed because of this manipulation and toxicity. And I just, wow. I love this book so much. If you don't know what this is about, this is a retelling of Dracula's Brides. And like I said, like she kills her husband. So you already know that going into it. But it really just shows the story of her decision to come to kill her husband. This one was also a very emotional read. It explored a very toxic relationship, and I even felt myself being manipulated. I really felt like the characters and their sadness and their anger and all of that, like I really enjoyed just the journey that this book took me through. And wow, like also amazing book that was well worth the hype. But that wraps up all of the best books that I have for 2024. It was an emotional year for me. I think those are some of my favorite reads, and I think you can tell from just like the top books that I had in this list, like almost half of them were probably like very emotional reads. But honestly, like I'm surprised that I even had like 10 of them to even talk about. And if you have any questions about them, I will be happy, more than happy to chat about them in the comment section below if you want any more details about them. But I thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know your favorite books for the 2024 year. And if you don't want to do that, let's just leave a star emoji or something just for all of the stars that we can give for these books for just being amazing. But again, I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!